what it says to me is that this tweet has been flagged for being inciting violence and being abusive and targeted harassment. That's what the notification said to me. And then it said that, do you want to delete it or do you want to appeal? And I said, appeal. And I wrote down, my reasons for not wanting to delete it, because I did not agree that I was inciting violence, nor was I engaging in targeted harassment.
Right.
But then while they're processing your appeal, you're locked out of the system. So you can't get on. So so the aftermath, when black women started to ride for me and start to get attacked themselves, and I didn't see that, because that early I was already out.
Right.
And I was out for almost a week after. So everything I saw happening on Twitter was secondhand through my partner, Dr. Syria Lang. And she was the one kind of reporting to me what was going on. And, and of course, at this time, I had already had calls from, my administrators and things like that, saying that there would be a response. They didn't tell me what the response would be, but definitely this has come to the point that they've seen it and they're going to have to respond to it. And I said, and I also, at that point explained to them my perspective and where I came from, and what the British monarch had done, and what she represented, and what I was, the truth I was telling, and how I was speaking from not just my pain, but the collective pain of my family and
Absolutely.
my broader Igbo people. So, I told that to them, and then they said, okay, and that was it. Whatever else I heard from them was when I was hearing it on the news along with everybody else, or when I saw the statement being released, etc.
Absolutely. And so I had two more questions, and I want to open it up. Has this experience changed the way, because like you said, you kind of go in, you use Twitter, you kind of almost like prepare, like you said, to teach when you go in there. Has this experience changed the way you're looking at engaging in social media, or do you intend to continue to engage in the way you have?
So even in this, my most intense moment on social media, fundamentally, more than I am anything else in this world, more than I am a mother, more than I am a researcher, more than I am a sister, a community member, I am a teacher. And if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to teach.
Right.
And even in that very intense moment of profound pain and my outburst, my emotional outburst of deep, deep pain, I was teaching. I followed up explaining that there was a genocide against the Biafra people.
Right.
Right. The who were trying, the Igbo people who were trying to form an independent nation of Biafra. They wanted to be separate from the country that the British Empire had imposed on us, which was this country of Nigeria, where they kind of took a bunch of independent nations who don't have anything to do with each other, don't even speak each other's language, don't relate. Many of them were even enemies and warring at the time, smushed them all together and drew these arbitrary lines around them and called them countries and named those countries.
Right.
And then said, now y'all get along and do a country for us and be a union for us. And then go through, contentious, bloody independence processes that never really yield any real independence. You're still part of a commonwealth afterwards.
True.
And you have the eternal meddling in your affairs and the eternal extraction of your resources and the eternal fomenting of divisiveness and infighting in order to be able to control you. This is what an oppressor does, a colonizer does. These are tactics and strategies of dominance.
Right.
We were subjected to that as a larger unit of Nigeria. And then when the Igbo people said, we want our own thing, let's go and do that. Well, it so happened to be that the territory that this new country of Biafra was going to be in included very, very rich oil reserves. And the British were not going to let go of that.
Wow.
And the people that they had put in power, you know, their puppet Nigerian governments weren't going to do that either, because they needed it for the Nigerian project.
Right.
And Britain needed it for its own interests and uses. So Great Britain got directly involved in this civil war and in the war for independence, and decided that they would do everything to make sure that Biafra did not go.
Wow.
And this everything meant directly funding genocide of the people of Biafra. This is what happened. This is the historical record. I'm not saying anything that's in doubt or in question, right?
Yeah.
Even when it was happening during this period of 1967 to 1970, the BBC themselves were producing documentaries decrying it, covering all the protests that were happening
Wow.
in Great Britain.
This is recent.
Yeah, this is very recent. My sister, for example, is turning 60 this month. And my sister was alive at that time. She was like 5, 6.
Right.
My other brother was alive at the time, and my second brother was in my mother's belly. She was pregnant during this time, running from village to village to escape the bombs that they were throwing at villagers. So when we tell you that 3 million people, some people have said up to 5 million, 6 million, or some people quote low. So the sort of average agreed upon number that you really cannot contest is about 3 million. When you think of a Holocaust,
Right.
this is a Holocaust.
Absolutely.
Now, the Holocaust that we typically were most familiar with is the most famous one against the Jewish people,
Yes.
where 6 million of them were massacred.
Absolutely.
So at the most sort of conservative estimation, they did half of us,
Right.
half that number. Civilians, these are non-combatants, and more than 1 million children alone starved.
Wow.
The British paid for that. And Queen Elizabeth II was ruler. She was monarch at that time. This was the government that she was supervising. Now, I don't buy this notion that she was just a statue, if you will.
I was going to ask you that question.
Or
You're reading my
a
mind.
decorative plant.
Right.
Or, some kind of, I don't know, tchotchke sitting on the shelf.
Right.
This was a ruler. This was someone, the very crown that she had on her head, signifying the fact that she's a monarch, was made from plunder.
Right.
Diamonds, blood diamonds.
Absolutely.
So the throne that she's sitting on is a throne of blood. So you cannot say that she was just this little old lady or this figurehead that really had nothing to do with anything, and it was just the British government that were making their deals and, governing however they would, without relating it directly to her, because she directly benefited her very position as a monarch, the palace that she lived in, the opulence, the obscene levels of wealth that she enjoyed
Absolutely.
were all paid for by our blood. And I don't say this figuratively, and I don't say this as something that, this long remote past, let's say, of human enslavement, which on my mother's side, she's from Trinidad, my ancestors over there were enslaved by the British. I'm talking about recent living memory of people still alive today. Her money, her government funded our slaughter. And people expected me to be calm or to be, I don't know what they expected.
Right.
When the person who literally paid money for bombs and guns and military
Absolutely.
supplies to come and massacre your people is dying.
Right.
You're not supposed to dance. What's the reaction to that?
I remember when we found out that Osama bin Laden was killed, and Americans celebrated, right, because they held him responsible for 9/11, which just passed, and that terror that occurred, and those 3,000 or so people that died.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when it's our terror, when it's our pain, when it's our
Absolutely.
loss as black and brown people, and we, particularly when we express it in a way that challenges, white supremacy, the white supremacy dominant narrative, and this, kind of almost like Disneying idea that people had of a queen, then all of a sudden it's like we're always told to be civil, to be calm, to be peaceful as black and brown people. And so, but when it's somebody that you feel harmed America, you can dance, you can celebrate, you can take out your
Absolutely.
flags,
Yeah.
and that's held up. You can have lynchings were celebratory things in the history of the United States of America, where they would have a parade and party and
take children.
Right.
An entire family would go and enjoy the spectacle
100%.
of murdering black people.
100%. 100%. So, my last question is, a support petition has been produced.
Yeah.
4,000 or 5,000 people have signed this petition. So when you see that support, just how do you feel in that moment?
It felt so good, right? Especially since I was locked out of Twitter,
Right.
Battling this suspension, and having my account, temporarily suspended. And just seeing the outpouring of support from people who may or may not have agreed with how I expressed my pain, but certainly believed that I had a right to do it
Absolutely.
in however I did it. And that was so important to me. And it was wonderful to see that, because not only that letter with, 4,000, 5,000 signatures,
Yeah.
was
like fellow
of
academics,
academics,
journalists, students.
exactly, people in this country, in the United States, and around the world. And it wasn't just academics, it was professionals, it was
Right.
community members, students, all sorts of people were there saying, we got your back.
Absolutely.
Now, once again, they were not endorsing what I did or the words that I used, but they were endorsing my right to speak my truth and to speak my pain and not be terrorized and abused and violently targeted for it when Jeff Bezos put that target on my back.
Absolutely.
And then, in addition to that letter, there was also a letter from my colleagues at my university, other faculty, staff, other employees, with more than 100 names on that letter as well. And then another letter from students
Wow.
at Carnegie Mellon who filled, last time I looked, like 8 pages of signatures, and not even on a list form, in like block text,
Wow.
one
Wow.
after the other, thick.
Beautiful.
And even on campus, they spray painted on sort of the main quad. There's this wall, this white wall, where they spray painted RIP colonialism on one side, and on the other side, let her speak. These were Carnegie Mellon students who did that. So when I saw all of that, the outpouring of support from the broader academic community and, in general, people outside of my institution, along with my colleagues at my institution and the students that I serve at this institution, I cannot, and I'm, a words person. Words are my business. I'm a linguist. I cannot even find the words to tell you just how thankful and grateful and joyful I felt.
Beautiful.
In such days of pain, right? Because I'm a human being. I act tough, right? But you can only take so much abuse.
True.
So in all of that pain, to get this kind of support, I realize I have people.
Absolutely.
I have people.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. And that includes us at One Hood.
Yes,
Well, you got us too. Beautiful, beautiful.
That was deep. That was intense. But I mean, this speaks to the volume about like how these ripples effects are felt across the globe when
100%.
you talk about the monarchy. Like, not everybody is going to react favorably to the crown, and this is a lesson to people. It should be a lesson to people globally that the people of the global majority have been the ones that have been forced into subjugation, been the one forced into oppression, been the ones who have felt the tyranny of the crown firsthand, right?
And told like to just like suck it up
and just deal with it, right? Because of
be happy
because
you
we got
something.
the East India Trading Company, right? Because we have a gold standard, because we have English as this lingua franca spoken around the world. Because we have all these things that fall under the umbrella of the crown that quote unquote benefit the world. We're supposed to be quiet and just accept it because they civilize the savage, right? And these are things that we're supposed to be placated with.
And I have to also say that my quarrel is not with the British people.
Right.
The British people are subject to her rule as
Absolutely,
well.
yeah.
100%.
You know, there is no quarrel with the British people. They are subjects. They don't elect her.
This is something that's extrapolated, right? And I have a lot to say about this. Like, I have so much to say about this. In the West, patriotism equals prejudice, right? You look at what people talk about patriotism is in the States. You wave around the flag. That's a symbol of violence for a lot of people.
100%.
In England, it's no different. In Canada, it's no different. Like, you wave around the Union Jack, you wave around the maple leaf. Indigenous people suffered at the hands of
100%.
erecting that flag on soil.
Absolutely.
Right? The Irish, who are white people, weren't considered human by the crown. Right, and these are things. This is what I'm saying. Like, I have yet to see, and maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. I have yet to see the conversation where people are backlashing and slandering the Irish people for speaking out against the Queen. Has anybody? Has it come up online at all?
I mean, I think I haven't seen it. I mean, I saw like, you know, but I'm not on Irish Twitter. I'm on Black Twitter, so I saw
and that's another thing.
The response of Black Twitter, and just speaking to what you said, I learned a lot. I didn't know like the word loot is an Indian word.
Pajama.
Cummerbund,
veranda.
But that like it was like attributed to the fact that they took so many diamonds from India.
They looted.
Right. And so I think of course I laughed, when you had mentioned what you said about Prince Harry. It reminded me of the tweet that somebody had said about the Queen, like never having to pay rent.
Yeah.
And like, basically was just like, you're just living off vibes, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they dragged me for calling him jobless.
Right. They said, this was the tweet. Can't stop thinking about how that lady lived nearly 100 years, never had a job, never paid rent, just lived off public dollars, stolen wealth, and vibes. We've never seen anything like her. She just might be the greatest grifting parasite the world has ever seen. And it's like but again, it's like part of what makes social media dope is that people who like, if there was no social media, all we would see was mainstream media, this kind of celebration of mourning, we wouldn't hear the other side. And somebody like me who knew a little bit, but I didn't know about Biafra. Like, I didn't know about these things. So I have 50 more million questions, but I do want to pass it to Trouble and Miracle as well to kind of hop into the conversation.
So I don't have a question. I have more of a statement. And my statement is about how your specific case, especially with Jeff Bezos jumping into the conversation, but not criticizing the Irish celebration of the death of the Queen,
right,
goes to show it's like another piece of evidence for the fact that black women are the most disenfranchised people in this country.
Right.
He felt it easier to come at you than it would be to come at the Irish people, literally dancing on social media to the occasion.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's my partner, while all this was happening, she would read tweets to me sometimes or let me know what was going on. Like, I didn't have access to to it myself.
Yeah.
But she would kind of narrate things or send me screenshots, etc. And another way in which I knew I had people were Nigerians and African Americans and other Africans and, you know, all types of people were waging Twitter wars as well.
Absolutely.
Behind this case.
Yes.
So that, in addition to those letters of support, I also saw, like, real material supports, even my trolls, you know, because I'm always getting into it with, you know, arguing about misogyny, for example, with Nigerian men, and sometimes African American men. You may remember me from the tweet. The misogyny, you know, struggle has made me like some firm enemies and trolls, right? And even those joined up to go around to be there as soldiers, if you will, underneath whoever was coming to say. And to how did they do it? Not by, you know, abusing, but by facts. They would post links, they would post videos and saying, this is the information you are lacking to understand where she's coming from. And we agree with her because we share this story as well. Alaibo. Alaibo is the name of, like, it's the Igbo name for, like, our land. You know, Ala meaning, like, our mother's breast, kind of. This is our turf. And Igbo land, like, came hard because this was our story. And this was our collective pain. And I was talking about it.
Beautiful.
But that was, you know, African Americans as well. Like, Black Twitter for me is not just African Americans. Black Twitter for me is also, you know, just Black people in general on Twitter. And so the African American subsection of Black Twitter was also, like, riding hard, taking huge hits as well, especially the outspoken Black women, the feminists who came, right? So I was hearing this, like, I wasn't seeing it, but hearing it kind of vicariously, and also feeling that there was a lot of support in the letters, but a lot of support sort of in, you know, on ground as well, where these battles were happening on Twitter, on Facebook, and elsewhere.
I do find it fascinating that you engage, because I don't think people probably just engage you not knowing that you're a professor of, like, applied linguistics.
But what I wanted to say is, you know, here in Pittsburgh, this was deemed one of the worst cities for Black women to live. And for me, the legacy of the Crown is that statistic is that anti-Black, they globalized anti-Blackness. So when people talk about, like, why pick these Black women, it's because the Crown helped through media in their campaigns to say, like, Black people did not matter, whether it's here in America or in the African continent or in the wider diaspora, is that, like, Black pain, Black people do not matter.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to build up your brand, you dog out Black people.
That's it. I mean, look at how their media treat Meghan, right? Meghan Markle.
Absolutely.
And the viciousness they reserve for her. You know, and she talks about how the fact that her, you know, her heritage and her appearance as a light-skinned biracial, you know, person, had before shielded her from a lot of this. But she didn't really hit that racism till she encountered the British.